Welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast, powered by Healthy Steps Nutrition. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on a simple, habit-based approach. We know that helping you become the best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about what you eat or going to the gym a few hours a week. We focus on a holistic framework addressing stress management, mindset, lifestyle, sleep, support system, and of course, exercise and nutrition. My name is Nicole Aucoin, and I'm one of the dietitians and the founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring. I'm also the author of the Healthy Kids Cookbook, 100% kid-approved recipes the entire family will love. You can find it on Amazon. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to take one step at a time to making health a way of life. So May is Mental Health Month. And if I'm honest, when I started Healthy Steps Nutrition, I did not realize there was such a strong correlation with what we eat and specifically our mental health, mental illness, anxiety, depression, all of the things. A few years ago, I got connected with an author of a book called Your Brain on Food, Dr. Uma Nabdi. And she has done a ton of research around this topic. I actually had her on this podcast last year. I'll link that podcast in the show notes. But today, in light of Mental Health Month, I want to really talk about how food, mood, and mental health all interact with each other. I think sometimes, especially if you are not in the routine of eating well, you don't even know how your body is designed to feel. I think a lot of us can correlate, what we eat for lunch. And if we're having a balanced meal or we're having a meal that's not so balanced, we could feel a little tired, sluggish, not feeling our best. And I'm not saying by having one meal, you're going to all of a sudden have mental illness. But if we're mostly consuming foods that are not properly fueling us and promoting mental health, I do think that it can cause some issues, and the research shows that. The research around mental health, a lot of it revolves around mental illness associated with ultra-processed foods. I'm going to read the definition of ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods are defined as industrial formulations of processed food substances, oils, fats, sugar, starch, protein isolates that contain little or no whole food and typically include flavorings, colorings, emulsifiers, and other additives. These are typically low cost and convenient, and such foods, examples of these would be chips, lunch meats, sugar sweetened beverages, cakes, cookies, breakfast cereals, a lot of our processed stuff that is found in the aisles or the bakery section. So why is this important? Why am I bringing this up? Well, there's studies that show the correlation between high consumption of ultra-processed foods and increased risk of anxiety and depression. One study specifically showed people who consumed 60 and 80% of their calories from ultra-processed foods led to a 31% increase in depression for that 60%. And the people that consumed 80% of their calories had an 81% likelihood of experiencing depression. What we eat influences how we feel, but how we feel also influences what we eat. How many of us use food as comfort? I can tell you from personal experience, I work from home, and a lot of times, if I'm not mindful, I might find myself wandering into the kitchen. If the healthy choice isn't the easy choice, and the processed food is the easier choice, not the healthy choice, then what am I going to grab? Probably the thing that is easier. So why am I talking about this? Well, we want to feel our best. So we got to fuel our body with premium fuel. So I want to talk about some different things to think about when thinking about promoting mental health, not mental illness, with your nutrition. So when you look at the research around promoting brain health, eating a whole foods, primarily whole foods diet, eating meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, minimal added sugar, great place to start. Foods that are high in omega-3s, like wild-caught salmon, mackerel, almonds, pecans, walnuts, those things help fight inflammation, also promote brain health. B vitamins are also shown to help with mental health. Vitamin D is another one. Vitamin D is such an important one because when you think of vitamin D deficiencies can are linked to decreased immune function, also increased risk of specific types of cancers with vitamin D deficiency. And vitamin D, if you're overweight, sometimes gets sequestered or stuck in your fat cells. So it's even more important for us to make sure that we're getting enough vitamin D. Now, we can consume it through our diet, but we can also make it if we're going outside and getting some sunlight. So if we're wearing a ton of sunscreen all the time, our body's not going to be able to efficiently make vitamin D. And also depends on where you are geographically located and the time of year. So if you're closer to the sun, in the summer months, you're probably going to make more vitamin D than someone in Alaska, where it might be darker more of the time and not as strong of sunlight. Magnesium and zinc are also shown to promote mental health. So what do we want to think about? We want to eat more whole foods. Follow the plate method. Half of our plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch. Now, another thing beyond whole foods that I want to talk about is this gut-brain connection. So we know that a lot of our immune function is actually found in our gut. We have good bacteria in there, and we want to make sure that we're fostering a good environment. The gut is often referred to as a second brain. Maybe you've had a gut feeling or butterflies in your belly before. There's a clear connection between our brain and our gut, specifically around communication. Serotonin and dopamine are two chemicals. 90% of the serotonin receptors are in our gut. What does this mean for you? We want to make sure that we have good bacteria in our gut. We're having those fermented foods that are going to promote good bacteria. It also is directly correlated with hormone health. So even more reason to prioritize or understand this gut-brain connection with mental health, hormone health, also just immune function feeling our best. Now, if you have a bunch of diarrhea, that is going to get rid of a lot of that good bacteria. So it's even more important to replace it. The fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut could be a good option. Or if you don't like fermented foods, maybe a supplement would be a good option for you. Remember, a lot of the receptors for our immune function are in our gut. And also serotonin, 90% of the receptors and production happens in the gut for serotonin. Super interesting. Now, the third thing that we need to think about in regards to mental health, alertness, energy levels, and our nutrition is something that we talk about a lot here. It's actually related to one of the core principles at Healthy Steps Nutrition, with limiting the amount of added sugar that we consume on a daily basis. Am I saying you can never have added sugar? No. But what I'm saying is there's a strong correlation with excess sugar and increased risk of chronic disease. And what the research shows is there's also a correlation between excess sugar and mental illness. So what do we want to be thinking about? We want to make sure that we're eating more whole foods. We're mindful of how much sugar we're consuming throughout the day. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar for women, no more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar for men. That's not that much. So what do we want to think about? We want to turn over the labels. We want to see what's in the foods that we are consuming. We want to eat more whole foods. Some other ways to help manage your blood sugar: going for a 15-minute walk after meals will significantly lower your blood sugar. It also helps to increase digestion, also helps with mood and energy levels. So this simple task, going for a walk for 15 minutes after meals, will help with digestion, blood sugar regulation, mental health, mood, energy levels, all of the things. Something simple and actionable to do. And if you do it, go ahead and tag me at Nicole_RD_HSN or at Healthy Steps Nutrition on Instagram. I'd love to see your walking photos. So walking after meals, pairing protein, carbs, and fats together. Protein helps to increase satiety, so it helps keep us full. Same thing with fat. Fat slows down digestion, so we stay full longer versus just having carbohydrates that are broken down a little bit faster, and then we're hungry again faster. So we want to pair protein, carbs, fats, and of course, veggies with our meals. Sugar-sweetened beverages are the leading source of added sugar in our population today. In fact, when I was looking at some of the research, it's super interesting, but Coke, they get such a large percentage of their revenue, for almost a little over 40%. 40% of the revenue from Coke comes from food stamps, right? From a government supplemented program. So instead of focusing on whole foods, we're getting sugar sweetened beverages and a huge revenue stream for Coke. As a dietitian in the hospital and even working with the American Academy of Dietetics, whatever they call it now, something that I was always frustrated about was how Coke and sugar was sponsoring some of our events. It was frustrating because no, that's not actually leading people to optimal health. Can you have a treat once in a while? Absolutely. But we shouldn't be promoting to have it all the time on a regular basis. Probably not, right? Let's eat whole foods. If you want something sweet, have a piece of fruit. Instead, what do we really consume are sugar-sweetened beverages, which we should be limiting. The other thing that we want to think about is inflammation. Now, I talked about omega-3s before, help they fight inflammation. Whole foods helps to fight inflammation, right? There are also some herbs like turmeric that helps to fight inflammation and helps with mental health. So what should you do? I think the first thing is just start taking notice. When you eat, how do you feel after? Within 2 hours, how's your energy level? How's your mood? Are you starting to notice that you feel differently with eating different foods? And let's focus on having more whole foods. Let's focus on that brain-gut connection. Let's have those probiotics on a regular basis. And let's limit the amount of added sugar so that we can all promote mental health, feel our best, so that ultimately we can accomplish whatever our purpose in life is, whatever we're wanting for ourselves. We're going to be more fulfilled, more productive, and ultimately healthier when we are healthier physically, but also mentally. Hope you enjoyed this podcast on food, mood, and mental health. If you have any questions, please tag us on Instagram. I'm happy to answer those. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people with the podcast. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, our mission is to help 1 million people take control of their health one step at a time so that they can prevent and reverse chronic disease. And we know we can't do that alone. We need people like you who are listening to this podcast who might have found it valuable to share it, because you never know who might need to hear this message today. Mental health and mental illness is something that so many people struggle with, and this is one piece of the puzzle to help you. We also want to prioritize exercise, movement, and sleep. And of course, I would recommend seeking a healthcare professional if you need it. Hope you found this podcast helpful, and we'll see you back here next week.